Good afternoon. A very warm welcome to all of you to ASMA's latest event on challenges and opportunities of higher education in 2022 and beyond. We have with us a distinguished panel, and today's moderator is Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary. Let me invite Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary to take this ahead. Over to you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, Rahulji. Thank you. And good afternoon from Dhaka, Bangladesh, to all the learned intelligentsia and intellectuals whom I've met, a few of them earlier online, all over the country. So I'm actually an Indian. I'm from Calcutta. I was till recently the Pro Vice Chancellor of Adamas University, Kolkata, taken over as Strategic Director and a professor with Daffodil International University, the largest private sector university in Dhaka, in Bangladesh. So coming to today's topic, as Rahulji has very rightly said, challenges and opportunities of higher education in 2022 and beyond. Yes, 2020 and 21 were largely for digital education, online education, and we were searching, our feet, our ground under our of this period. But now that we have moved on to a new scenario, a scenario where opening of the campuses are also happening, but then there are challenges as well, as quick closure has happened as well in most of the states of India. And we are also looking forward, because this Omicron doesn't seem to be as virulent and as violent as on our health as the Delta or the second wave was. So we're looking forward to opening our campuses very soon. So keeping that in mind, I think Rahul ji leading valiantly this ASMA and bringing forth a plethora of online learning platforms all throughout the last 24 months. He has come with this concept of challenges and opportunities of higher education in 22 and beyond, which surely is very different from 20, the digital one, surely is very different from 2019, the physical one. So where are we going tomorrow? This is the focus today. And just to give an introduction, the organizer is ASMA, a thought leadership platform helping academia harness the power of the digital for growth. ASMA surely is a strong thought leadership platform indeed. I have myself attended 7 to 8 programs over the last 2 years. And I find that ASMA is connected to 15,000 leading universities and institutions, 25,000 preschools and schools, 10,000 decision makers and key stakeholders, and 100,000 strong academic community who have attended at some point or the other any of the programs organized by ASMA, or also use their services for their digital growth. Today, there are 2 sessions. The first session, I am not moderating. First session is being moderated by an eminently much more competent person, Mr. Ajay Bhagwat, who is the director of Inpods India Private Limited. Inpods has partnered with ASMA to bring this session to us, both the sessions to us today, in also collaboration with Edu Vacancy as well. So allow me to give a little brief introduction of the moderator first and the 4 panelists that we have for the first session. I shall come back for the second session later on. So we have Mr. Ajay Bhagwat with us, the director of Inpods India Private Limited. I'm sure we shall be looking at more on the Inpods role in shaping higher education a little later. Best practices to be adopted by the academic leadership in developing quality assurance leading to new education policy 2020. That's the theme that we'll focus on in this particular session. So we have with us Ajay ji, as has been told. He's the director of Inpods, an EdTech expert, and he is also an EdTech expert of technologies of academic quality assurance, competency-based medical education, CBME, outcome-based education, and technologies to improve the outcomes for accreditation such as ABET, NBA, NAC accreditation, and all that. So he is actually from the computer and mechanical engineering background, and we are looking forward to his what should I say, his moderation for the session today. The eminent 4 speakers are, let me begin with a lady first, Dr. Kiranji Reddy, CEO of AIMS Institute, Bangalore. AIMS Institute, Bangalore, and she comes with almost 4 decades of rich experience in academics. So we shall be having her in this session, talking about how NEP, evolution to NEP or movement, a journey to NEP can happen, and what sort of best practices should be adopted in this current scenario. We have with us Dr. Balakrishna Shetty. Dr. Balakrishna Shetty is the Vice Chancellor of Sri Siddhartha University of Tumkuru, in Karnataka, and he has completed his medical education from Kasturba Medical College, very well known, Mangalore, with distinction in many subjects. Later, he has been also a master's in radio diagnosis as well. He is the recipient of the National Merit Scholarship of DGHS Scholarship in Higher Education. The University of Texas awarded him the prestigious Pediatric Radiology Fellowship in 1994. Very well-known radiologist, known for developing MR-PET technology for early detection and staging of cancer without radiation, something that India seriously, very strongly needs. We also have with us our doyen of higher education, whom I've been knowing for more than a decade now, Professor P.V. Sharma, the Vice Chancellor of Amit University, Gurugram, the founder and former Vice Chancellor of DTU and RGTU. Sir, very well-known person in the academic circles. He has been a part of the planning and conceptualization of new education policy as well. It's good to have him today to talk it from the policymakers' perspective as well. Doctorate from the University of Birmingham, UK, Professor Sharma, during his professional career spanning 5 decades, has made a distinguished contribution to the advancement of frontiers of knowledge in areas of mechanical engineering, aero engineering technology, and knowledge and innovation management. Today, that's the focus, knowledge and innovation management in the context of new education policy and the changing reality today where we're moving to a blended learning. We also have, and I have the pleasure of now introducing Dr. Sasangan Ramanathan, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. And Sir is a professor of the Department of Chemical Engineering and Material Sciences, more than 2 decades of international research, management, and leadership experience. He served as the Chief Technology Officer of multi-million-dollar company in the US in developing cutting-edge technology for advanced semiconductor device fabrication. It's good to see that he brings such a senior expertise in the field of the engineering, in the field of technology to academics, from the corporate to academics. In fact, that's one of the goals of new education policy, to bring as far as possible the academia and the practice closer. With this introduction to our very erudite and experienced panel, I leave it to now Mr. Ajay Bhagwat, Director of Inpods India Private Limited, to take it forward as the moderator of this session. I shall get back 1 hour later for the second session. Over to you, Mr. Ajay Bhagwat.
Thank you, Dr. Ujjwal, for the introduction, and I'm privileged to be part of this event as a moderator. At the outset, I welcome all the eminent personalities on the virtual dais who are our panelists and all the participants of today's event. On behalf of Inpods USA, Inpods India, our customers and well-wishers of Inpods. While serving higher education institutions in India in the last 11 years, Inpods has experienced very closely the reforms taking place in the quality of education. NEP 2020 has introduced many groundbreaking reforms in the way the higher education in our country has to embrace in the time to come. Through our interactions with hundreds and thousands of senior academicians and the leaders in higher education, we sense that there is a need for mentoring, coaching of aspiring leaders in higher education to face the challenges of rapid changes which are expected to happen in the way the higher education has to be aligned with changing needs of the 21st century students and the policies. Quality assurance of the higher education is at the center point of all the reforms to happen. In addition, a few challenges such as challenges of implementing multidisciplinary education, aligning the curriculum to multiple exits and entries of the students, creating an environment in which research by faculty members will flourish, um, and implementing the student-centered outcomes-based education are adding to the complexity. In today's event, my goal is to seek views from our eminent guests on the dais by asking few questions related to what, according to them, are the best practices to be adopted by academic leadership in developing quality assurance leading to NEP 2020. I would also encourage the participants to post their questions to our guest in the question and answer window, which I will shortlist and ask panel to respond to those questions at the end of our discussion. So with this, actually, my first question is to Dr. P.B. Sharma. Dr. Sharma, NEP 2022 has received many very positive feedback at the policy level, but there is some criticism as well about how institutions can implement NEP 2020. Dr. Sharma, you have a very wide experience of 50 years of both working at ministry level as well as running large state and private universities, and currently as a VC of Amity University, Gurgaon. My question to you is follows. NEP 2020 emphasizes shift in the skills such as creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and lifelong learning. In addition, there is a lot of importance given to value-based teaching. What changes, my question to you is as follows. What changes in the curriculum design will need to be made to accommodate these skills, and what process the institutions will have to implement to dynamically and frequently align the program design to suit these needs?
Great privilege to be part of this very distinguished panel, and thank you, Mr. Ajay Bhagwat ji, for asking such an important question, a searching question. And we need to answer this question to the best of our ability, to ourselves, to our institutions, and to the vast body of higher education to which we belong to. The new education policy, like any other policy in the past, has focused its attention to what has been said in the opening remarks on competency-based education, on outcome-based education, and they have also echoed the sentiments for value-based education. Keeping the tripod of competency-based, outcome-based, and value-based education, the policy also puts its emphasis on creating what is most important today. Today, it's very important to create the innovative and creative abilities in the students who come to the universities and colleges in our country. Creativity and innovativeness has suddenly become very important, and we are realizing the great gains which nation like ours can reap from the rise of creativity and innovation in plenty from the billions of minds which we have here and around the world. Having said this, let me say that creativity and innovativeness requires critical thinking. Critical thinking is absolutely essential. Unfortunately, in the past, our emphasis was more on assimilating the vast body of knowledge, not so much on critical thinking, not so much on causing innovativeness within the campuses of the university. We thought that the mundane responsibility of the learned teachers is to translate and transfer much of the knowledge of the textbooks to the minds of our students. And we thought that this knowledge will take them throughout their professional life, make them relevant to the community, to the industry, to the corporate. But today, we are in a very different set of terms. We belong to a new era today. We call it new age, new age of knowledge and innovation. And the education sector, like any other sector of economy, is also under tremendous pressure to align its entire strategic framework today to cause an upsurge of creativity, critical thinking, collaborative aptitude and attitude, and on top of that, of course, lifelong learning. And therefore, it's very important for us to realize what can be done for implementing NEP, these four aspects, through the curriculum design and curriculum delivery. In my opinion, much of this has begun to happen. When I joined Amity University after superannuation from Delhi Technological University as its vice chancellor, I found that one of the major reform which we made in our curriculum design was to create an era of openness, an era of flexibility in the design of curriculum, allowing students also to have tremendous amount of space for self-learning and for learning in a manner that they are able to spend more time for critical thinking, collaborative learning, collaborative research, and also give an upside to creativity and innovation. I started selling the idea that culture of innovation, culture of collaborative learning, culture of deep learning, culture of team teaching, and culture of team learning has to become a reality in the campuses of the university. Now, as far as NEP is concerned, any policy can mandate what it can, and I'm sure the document is the very best we could get, but it all depends how do we go about implementing it. I asked my grandchildren, two of them are studying in America. One of them is at the school level, another one at the university level, that what major change has come in 2020, 2020 bracket 1 and 2020 bracket 2 now. And the answer both of them gave that much of the learning is being called outside the classroom. Nobody is teaching us. They are, if at all they are teaching very little. Rather, they are instigating us, inspiring us to use our mind to learn what we should and go in a manner that we are able to develop critical thinking, creativity, innovativeness, and on top of that, of course, become champions of the cause of self-learning and lifelong learning. This major shift has occurred in the way curriculums are designed and curriculums are delivered. And being in India, my submission to the panel today is must really submit to this cause of openness, creating more space for self-learning, collaborative learning, even in the classroom, creating an environment of team learning. And this is possible today in an environment of technology-enabled learning in which we have already entered to. Having said this, let me say very clearly that the emphasis on value-based learning, apart from critical learning, innovativeness, and creativity, nurturing creativity, the value-based learning primarily is asking us to understand the value and worth of what our forefathers have said in the past. They said an educated man is judged not by the body of knowledge or volume of knowledge or the depth of knowledge he possesses, but the levels of integrity, personal and professional morality, and the work ethics which he practices during his lifetime. And the time has come today to overscore the importance of integrity, because ultimately integrity matters. People of integrity matters today in the digital age. And if we do not serve this cause of nurturing creativity, innovativeness, collaborative learning, lifelong learning, alongside with personal and professional integrity, professional morals and work ethics, the whole effort of investment in education would fail. We will have an insane society which will be highly educated, but would perhaps not practice at all any knowledge for the benefit of larger collective good of the humanity for which knowledge is required to be practiced. And therefore, the value-based education, in my opinion, has to find a space in the campuses of the university, in the classrooms, outside the classrooms also, and we have to find ways of nurturing character and nurturing behavior and nurturing integrity and professional morality at all levels, including our teachers as well as our students. This is the agenda, in my opinion, and it requires a serious and careful search in all corners of our university to create new spaces for the new requirement which have so well emerged. Let me finish by saying, as far as your first question is concerned, that it's not just the policy which matters. What matters is the kind of commitment and resolve people like us sitting on the chairs of authority of the vice chancellors, of directors of the institution. Even I was very happy to see the title Chief Executive Officer of the institution have that commitment to implement the kind of change which is required today. And if we fail our responsibility to cause this openness and create spaces which are so important for the newer aspects, higher education in India would continue to lag behind. The world is taking note of it, and I can assure you they are implementing the change with speed and ease through the strength of their breakthrough and speed leadership qualities. We need to create such champions of the cause in the chairs of the authority as well as those who are sitting on judgment in our institutions. So I thought I must put this on the plate straight away before the learned panel that we can do it, we should do it, and we must commit ourselves with a firm resolve to do it at the earliest possible. Now that we are assembling today on the eve of the 72nd Republic of our great nation, in the year when we are celebrating what they have called the Amrit Mahotsav of our Azadi. And therefore, I think the biggest Azadi which is required today in the higher education sector is to cause this major departure in the way we go around putting together our curriculum or deliver it in the classroom. Let much more learning outside the classroom occur. Let there be much greater collaborative learning, integration of learning along with the research, and also innovativeness of the kind that is required to be created by learning not only to know, but learning to do. And we must also not forget the importance of learning to live together in peace and harmony, which requires both value-based education for creating a peaceful and compassionate society, and also a society which practices personal integrity, professional morals, and professional integrity of the kind which the digital age requires. I thought I must stop at this point because I can give you 1 hour lecture on this, but that's not required for a panel like this. We are a highly learned group here, and I'm sure all the enlightened participants, they have their own idea. Solution could not be what Professor Sharma says alone. It has to be the collective wisdom of the educators of this country. But it must require, as I said, a firm resolve and commitment to cause that vital change which is required. Thank you so much indeed. Thank you, Mr. Ajay.
Dr. Sharma. Actually, what I learned today, something new is, this teaching in groups, actually, team teaching. So this is something new to me. Thanks a lot for sharing your insights on how the curriculum needs to be aligned with value-based education and more to help the students achieve the metacognitive skills maybe. And it also that mandates that the process of revising the program design needs to be under a constant check, and it should evolve continuously. Thanks a lot. Actually, program designing is on one side, and then at the other end of program designing is assessments. And that is making me ask a question to Dr. Kiran Reddy. So Dr. Kiran Reddy, am I audible to you? Hello?
Yeah. Am I audible to you?
Audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
My question to you, Dr. Reddy. Dr. Reddy, you have successfully registered the AMTC, the certificate program, which helped the institution to become one of the most. I have a question for you about the pedagogical reform, which are expected to implement after the education no learning. And more, I think will follow. Am I audible to you, ma'am?
Yeah, but I think your voice is breaking. Voice is breaking.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, now it's fine. Yeah, yes. Can you please repeat the question?
Actually, yes. So actually, I'm addressing a question related to reforms in education, reforms in assessment. And my question to you as follows: am I audible now?
Some issue, it's not very clear.
So, madam, the sound
Maybe.
is at your end.
Yeah, okay.
No problem.
Yeah. You're fine. Yeah, please continue.
My question to you is as follows, ma'am. 2020 emphasizes a comprehensive approach that involves appropriate curriculum, engaging pedagogy, continuous formative assessments, and adequate student support. When it comes to the student support, it is expected that the learning environment will enable student support. Generally, the main concern of the academicians is to how the learning environment will support your learners to excel in their academic performance. The question to you is that what suggestions do you have to build a student support system which will help slow learners to perform better?
Yeah. Good afternoon to all the panel members. And before I just answer your question, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to ASMA and to Inpods for conducting such meaningful, relevant events, triggering the thoughts in the academic leadership about how to go about implementing the NEP 2020, which is a biggest challenge. In my career of close to 40 decades, I feel that, this is the biggest challenge which the institutions are really to be geared up to. And as per your question, how the slow learners will be taken care, will be handled, and will be looked into, and what is the role of the content, the delivery, and then the processes, I think, which we need to look into. If I'm right, if I have got your question properly. And here, actually, pedagogy plays a major role in implementation of NEP or any new initiative which is brought in, and also to maintain the quality and then to realize the vision of an institute. The major challenge when it comes to the slow learners is identifying, categorizing the students as slow learners and advanced learners. How do we do that is a major question. For this, I think, as you rightly said, the assessments have to be looked into. The faculty have to be trained about the assessments, what kind of assessments, and then, your formative and then your summative assessments, and how they will be able to really identify and categorize these students. See, for example, a student who is very good at languages may not be good with sciences or may not be good with business. So is it right if we just categorize that student as a slow learner? So first we need to understand, we need to have a process in place which just tries to map up the aptitude of the student and bring in a process to understand whether he's a slow learner and what is the aptitude he's missing and what are the skills which we need to, and how we also instill confidence in him that his inabilities can be converted into the capabilities. And transformation of the slow learners into advanced learners, again, is the biggest challenge. My answer to this is your process of identifying, mapping up the aspirations of the students and identifying their capabilities, and understand actually what they are good at, what is their they do have an aptitude for, they're excellent at, and then work on it and bring in the assignments to see that they cope up with the requirements. And there are many students who do not even realize what best they are at, what aptitude they are good at is what I think many of them, majority of them, do not understand. So it becomes a responsibility of the institute to just look into, identify, and then just make the student understand what are the skill sets they have, they're good at, and they will be good at, and they can utilize it, and then bring in the pedagogical tools to just cater to their requirements in bringing up an equal uniformity in the standards of the students. And this, I think, will be possible with the technology. You, Mr. Ajay, I think you just being heading the Inpods, you know about the requirement of the technology, and then the processes which have to be brought in, and training the trainers in framing up, coming up with excellent questions, the relevant questions to capture the students' capabilities. Then segregate them, categorize them, and then bring in different kind of assignments. You cannot say that a class of 60, the assignment can be the same. The 20 of the slow learners, 40 of the advanced learners, we cannot really give them assignments, a work, a teamwork, or a project, or a survey, which is of a similar standard. So I think the students, the faculty need to understand what are the requirements and what kind of questions would bring in these aspects of the students in order to analyze the students' capabilities and their requirements to help them in coping up or taking care of their aspirations. And the institute should be able to really understand that the strategic plans have to be changed now. The budget allocations have to be changed, wherein there's a need for a lot of technology to be brought in to just capture this data and then utilize for the future batches of the students who come in, and also like to have a repository of these assignments and the case studies which come out of it. And then we need to move totally towards outcomes based teaching and learning, which at times we have done it for the past 7 years, thanks to these accrediting bodies, which are now concentrating on the outcomes-based learning. And then NAC has been concentrating constantly. One of the important aspects is about how do we categorize low and advanced learners. I think we just, because of which we have started this, and we just commenced a committee which is called as Curriculum Development and Review Committee, which looks into the skill and knowledge gaps and then helps the faculty, train the faculty in understanding like how to frame up the questions, and then the assessments have to be done and the data has to be utilized in categorization and bringing in the relevant skill sets and the change in the pedagogical tools based on the capabilities of the students. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, Dr. Reddy, thanks a lot. Actually, what you mentioned about the students' profile and creating learning paths, looking at their skill sets, their orientation of their academic performance probably comes in picture here, and outcomes analysis becomes more important to identify the areas to help them improve, and based on that, probably the teacher's role becomes very important here to identify such weaker students based on the outcomes to be tracked and measured and analyzed. Otherwise, I mean, if this is the outcomes-based education is not in place correctly, it is likely that the teachers won't be able to actually identify those weaker students in a real sense. There might be a chance of false positives and false negatives also if the assessments and instructional design and outcomes are not aligned with each other properly. So actually, the outcomes-based education that is being implemented by many universities and institutions across India is one side of the way the higher education is moving to. But on the other side, actually, recently, a couple of years ago, the National Medical Council has revised their curriculum and oriented the whole instructional design to competency-based medical education. Philosophically, it is similar to what is being done in implementing OBE in non-health sciences institutions. And so the assessments also are being aligned to the competency-based medical education. So your inputs actually are, telling me that I should ask the next question to Dr. Balkrishna Shetty. And I would like to actually seek his inputs in regards to the assessments being conducted in medical education. So, Dr. Balkrishna, am I audible to you? Are you
Yes.
there?
Yes.
Can I ask you the next question? Yeah, thanks a lot. So, sir, as an eminent radiologist, you have worked in many international hospitals and universities, such as Yale University, and now working as vice chancellors of Siddharth University which is primarily a health sciences university with programs like MBBS and nursing, etc. My question to you is focused on assessment reforms in higher education and hence coaching and mentoring the teachers. I would like to understand from your views about not only implementing the reforms in assessments as mentioned in NEP 2020, but also from the perspective of CBME implementation, generally. My question to you is as follows. NEP 2020 mandates reforms in assessment, such as moving from high-stake examinations to more continuous and comprehensive evaluation. It is also expected that the teachers should be given autonomy to design their pedagogical approaches and formative assessments to continuously enhance application of knowledge. What challenges do you foresee in adopting? How do institutions care about to coach and mentor their teachers to be prepared for embracing the desired reforms in
Thank you, Ajay. Hope Ajay, I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible. There's some background noise here. Thanks, Dr. Kira. Background noise is coming from your mic.
The background, not from me, from my side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think now it is better. Okay. Of course, Ajay, I think Sharmaji and Madam Kiran has summarized most of the things. But as a doctor, I would like to say, as far as national education policy is considered, we do see the changes in education policies. It is something like, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge, every 10 years you see so many changes. But the question is whether these changes are implemented or not. That is the greatest question which need to be answered in this panel. Since you already told me about my experience in international hospitals, I would like to, answer your questions with the one more question. That question is like, if you see our students in India and our students outside India. If you see our students in the United States, you can see that they're the real performance. The best doctors are Indians, the best engineers are Indians, the best scientists are Indian, the best of NASA will be Indians. And if you conduct a international competition on Math B, the Indian will be winner. If it is a spelling bee, an Indian is a winner. And most of these international organizations, the CEOs, if you see there, most of them are Indians. So the question comes, why Indians students are not able to do well in this country, but they do very well in the other country? This is the simple seed and soil theory, whether the seed is bad or the soil is bad. If you ask me, the answer is the soil looks very bad. That is why our students cannot perform in our country, but they can perform in a different country. Sharmaji told tomorrow is a Republic Day. I would like to say, with all these changes, what changes we have? I think the person who will be hoisting the flag on this Republic Day only has changed, but nothing else has changed in this country. The education system has not changed at all. It is still the British system where they wanted to manufacture just clerks. They never wanted to manufacture intellectuals in this country. So that is the pathetic story of this education system. So coming to this first point, this is the basic thing I would like to say. Now coming to your answers, for example, syllabus. Of course, COVID has taught us the most important reform because of COVID is my student is liberated out of the concrete halls of a school. He's come out of the concrete hall. He is not out of the four corners of the school building. He is out and he can learn anything he can learn. That is the most important revolution of coronavirus because he is out. I always say this is the fourth revolution of education. I don't say NEP is a revolution, but Corona has made the revolution. Initially, the student used to go to the teacher and learn. It is called as, like a Gurukul system. Second, the second revolution was the student used to come to the class and the teacher also used to come to the class. And that was the usual classroom teaching. The third revolution was distant education. Now, this is the fourth revolution where the teacher will go to the classroom, but the student will stay at home. So this is the fourth revision. Now student has been liberalized. Now the student has to be liberalized for one more thing, that is a syllabus. I always tell them it is a syllabus. Of course, when Sharma ji, Kiran ji we were all studying, we had a textbook to study. Now there is no textbook. We don't want a textbook. We don't want a syllabus. My student is phenomenal. He can do anything. So I don't want a fixed syllabus for a student. That is the most important thing. Now coming to the evaluation, you said assessment process. The assessment and the examination process. The NEP says so many things, examination, so many things about academic credit and all those things. But I'll tell you, the day-to-day assessment, Sharma ji also insisted on that. Day-to-day assessment in the classroom is much more important than your university examination. Okay, every day you need to assess. So what we do now, let us say, as you rightly said, since I am a doctor, it is not important for me how many main questions I have answered correctly or how many short notes I have answered correctly. Each and every patient is a short note or a main question to me, how I treat my patient. So that is why it is called, if you read, it is classically called, if you read, you forget. If you write, you remember. If you do, you know. So this education system is not for knowledge. What knowledge you need? What questions are to be answered? Any question you answer, any question I'll tell you, you can ask me the toughest question within 30 seconds. I can answer with this particular system called the mobile phone. I can just ask Google, I can ask Siri, I can ask Alexa, and I can give you, I can answer any question. In the sense, my student can answer any question. So today, education is knowledge. Education is the skill. Education, how much my student can perform in a tough situation. What education is not knowledge, education is wisdom. So that wisdom should be there. That's what we teach in schools of medical education. So the examination, the syllabus, there should not be any syllabus. Number one, the student should be allowed, if I want to say what are the diseases of the heart, the student should be allowed to read and come about that. There is no rocket science in learning in higher education. Maybe mathematics, some derivation, some physics may be taught to the student. But most of the things I don't want. So today we are conducting multiple faculty development programs. Sharma ji, was it there when you were studying? There are no faculty development programs. Today, we need faculty development programs because my student is much more intelligent than my faculty member. That's why we are conducting faculty development programs. So I would like to say there should not be a syllabus. Now, coming to interaction. Now, you ask any questions to the student in the classroom, what will happen? He'll just stand up and he'll look down. Why my student is looking down in a classroom? Because we try to put them down if they give a wrong answer. So we need to promote them. We need to, what I tell them, I tell in the class, if you give a wrong answer, I'll give you credit for long answers. This is one methodology I use. I tell them credits for long answers, and who are the vice chancellors listening to me, who are the teachers listening to me, please tell these things. We'll give credit because I want my student to open up in the classroom. Okay, if I ask you one question, like in a US, let's say we do what is called as a tonsillectomy, which is a simple thing. The tonsil is supplied by about 101 blood vessels. Okay, and each vessel has got a name. If I ask a student in India, name the arteries supplying the blood vessel, supplying the tonsil, means he will say one or two, then he start looking down. But if I ask the same question to a student in the US, he'll say, sir, tonsil is supplied by the blood vessels around the tonsil. Very important. When you do a surgery, we need to cut down the arteries which are supplying the tonsil. We need not name each and one of them and cut it down. Okay, so that is what is called the common sense. So what I would like to say, I told you one thing, that we need to give credits for wrongers, but there are two conditions. Number one, the wrong answers should not be intentional because we are giving credits. And number two, the wrong answers should not be repeated again and again. With two conditions, I take my class and tell them, you can give me wrong answers, but I can give you credit. And each and every teaching system evaluation should be, it is like, it is an assessment. And for that, the methodology which you use, what is called the grasp. The methodology is, we ask the student to read. We'll give a topic to the student. We'll ask the student to read about the topic. And in the beginning of the class, for the 5 minutes, I'll put them 10 questions. And each and every student should write answer for those 10 questions. And I take the class looking at the answers, I take the class. I'll find out how much my student knows and I'll try to teach them if they don't know. So this is a way the classes to be taken. It is not one-way classes, should be abolished. There should not be any PowerPoint presentation in the classrooms. It should be more of interaction rather than one-way classrooms. That's what I would like to say. That is assessment that will make the students to learn and make them capable of doing something. That is most important in assessment rather than the university examinations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Balakrishna, for your insights. Actually, what you are emphasizing is giving more autonomy to the teachers, reduce the rigor that is typically there around the conducting examinations, and make it and more formative examinations more frequent is the key to kind of introduce the reforms in assessments. Thanks a lot. But something that you mentioned about whether it's a seed bad or the soil bad, and that has stuck in my mind, and that is leading me to ask a question to Dr. Sasangan, because he probably will help us get some insights into how to prepare the students to be industry ready, and probably that is about fixing the problem of the soil, in my opinion. So my next question is to actually Dr. Sasangan. Am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, you are.
Right. So thanks. Sir, actually, essentially, you're leading you're the dean of engineering in Amrita University, which is an institution of eminence. And besides, you have a vast experience in research, management, and leadership at international level. I would like to seek your views on a question related to improving the employability of the students, that is fixing the problem of the soil. So as a part of the holistic education, students of all the institutions will be provided with opportunities for internships with local industry, businesses, artists, craftsperson, etc., as well as research internship with faculty and researchers at their own and or other research institutions, so that students may actively engage with the practical side of the learning and as a byproduct, further improve their employability. It is also expected that institutions will focus on research and innovation by setting up startup incubation centers, technology development centers, centers in frontier areas of research, and it is expected that there will have to be greater industry academic linkages as well. So from your experience, sir, of performing as the CTO of the company, which is into advanced semiconductor device fabrication, and your experience in the research, management, and leadership at the international level, what suggestions do you have for the education leaders in our country to improve the employability of the students? Dr. Sasangan?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, you are.
Okay. A very good afternoon to the esteemed panel members and everyone in the audience. It's a very interesting question. First, you have to ask yourself, what is employability? Does holding a degree means I'm employable? One starking example that comes to my mind, I thought I'll start with that. I was in an industry, semiconductor capital equipment industry. It's a very, very cutthroat competitive industry. Each one of these equipments or machines we sell, they're about $4 to $5 million. If you look at the number of chips they manufacture per day, these machines have to be up and running at least 95% of the time. Now, anytime the machine goes down, we need highly qualified customer support engineers who can quickly troubleshoot, fix the machine. Now, that's the background. Now, if you ask me, in my since 1995, so about 19 years in a company where I was an engineer and eventually became a CTO down the line. The best engineer I have seen was a dropout from college. Okay, so I'll set that as a base. But this person had the best intuitive skills, and he could think fast. He could quickly connect the dots as to where the problem can be, if there is a problem, and he would go down the line and quickly narrow down the issue and fix it. College dropout. Now that's an extreme example. I'm not saying that everyone who drops out of college will be like that, but skill development it's called what a coin. It's got both head and tail. You have the faculty and you also have the students. So both sides have to work in synergy. Faculty just talking and trying to get the best knowledge to the student while the receptor is not receptive, is not going to do the job. If you've got the best receptors, but the faculty is not talented, nor skilled, nor trained, then you've got a problem. Okay, so that it is I think a lot of the aspects of NEP has been touched by the panelists. Now, I just look at the statistics, what was available in AICT dashboard. Specifically, I'm looking at engineering. Right? We're looking at 36 to 48% of the engineering graduates are employable. Now, that number can be as low as 25%. I've seen that. Now, the issue is you've got a steady decrease in enrollment in engineering colleges. And if you look at the number of students enrolled against the AICTE sanctioned intake, it's decreasing consistently over the last 5 years. Now, what is also interesting is the fact that states with more engineering colleges seem to fare bad in employable graduates. Basically, you've got a whole bunch of colleges, but not enough qualified faculty. I think policies are there, everything is written, nicely worded. However, I think none of them mention, and I would take the liberty to mention it, the quality of faculty in any institution forms the foundation of end-to-end. Now, I'm given the topic to talk about the result of what happens in the duration of a program. The result is, of course, employability. I go to higher education, I start my own business. However, the process that happens during the duration of the program is important. For that, like I said, you must have quality faculty and also students who are receptive. Of course, we have a spectrum of students. We don't expect everybody to be at the same level as at the top 10% of the country. So there we talked about slow learners, advanced learners. How do you encourage? So the curricular design, I think it's beaten to death, to be honest. Significant progress have been made, even with or without NAP. I think there has been significant progress made with encouragement and support from industry experts interacting with academicians to come up with a good set of curriculum for a certain program. Now that's okay, it's printed on paper. What do we do actually? Well, how do you translate what's there on paper to actually knowledge assimilation by the students? Quality of faculty, I keep underlining that because how it is taught is extremely important. Now, I think Dr. Shetty clearly nailed it on the head. Don't go on giving them exams, make them sit and vomit everything that they're supposed to remember. They have a phone in their hand. Information is available. Now, what we have to do is, okay, the times when we had none of those, we depended on books. Now, we don't need to depend so much on books. However, books may and should be important. But what is there in the book is available in your palm. Now, how do I use it? This applied, the application of fundamental science becomes important. And that's where I think, I would take the example of probably Amrita. We have a lot of project-based assessments. When you see the students working in groups, they tend to learn faster. They're bit more engaged, and their inquisitiveness and their curiosity and wanting to learn gets better when they work with their own peers. So wherever possible, try and use project-based, and this continuous assessment that Dr. Shetty said is an important aspect. Do not lock them up in a room, give a duration of time and say, okay, Here is your clock starts now and clock stops there. You're just creating unnecessary anxiety because learning doesn't become fun. That doesn't mean we compromise on the rigor. What we want to do is understand whether they are able to apply the knowledge, which is what the industry is wanting. Industry is not saying, tell me this equation or that equation. They're saying, how do you use it? How are you going to apply that and make my product better, my design better, and whatever the specifications are. Now, the second aspect I would say in the pedagogical changes is experiential learning. I mean, we have all of these projects and things, but I'm telling you a very simple example. If somebody today said, I had mild COVID-19 versus severe, a person who has breathing problem can only understand the difficulty of breathing. People who can breathe normally can never, ever put themselves in their shoes because none of those problems can be experienced by a good person, a perfectly healthy person. So that's what I mean by experiential learning. These students should not be spending time just in the campuses or classrooms. They should go out, spend time, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Now identify problems and challenges. We are trained to answer questions from class 1 to class 12, sir. I mean, panelists may agree. There has been nothing drastically different from when I went to school versus what the students are going through, the kids are going through. There is a question, we have to answer, you can agree. Next question, it's all about answering questions. We were never trained to ask questions when we were growing up. And we were never let loose and say, okay, no, just go out there and find some challenges and come back and let's huddle and see how we solve that particular challenge. Now, that's what should be happening. And I think government has created lots of platforms for that. And fortunately, Amrita, we have inculcated that about 5 years ago. Students spend 4 to 5 weeks in villages all across India. They get to choose, but the importance is not to go spend time in villages, but truly look for the issues and challenges faced by the villagers. Now, once they come back, they can truly feel the problem. They can feel it. And when they come up with a solution, I bet you it'll be one fantastic, implementable, and optimal. And that's one aspect of this pedagogy. In order to do all this, faculty need training. I think somebody pointed out FDPs. And quality faculty with that sort of a training is extremely important so that knowledge transfer or the time that students spend in a college is effective, fruitful, and they are ready to face challenges thrown by industry folks. Now, there is one other challenge, and I would be very forthright and point that out. How many of our faculty in India are allowed to go spend, let's say, 6 months to a year in an industry? We are all proud to say that I've been in this teaching environment, or I've been a faculty in university for 25 years. Great. However, people from the industry tell you that unless you are up to speed on everything that is happening around you, the dynamics of the industry changes so fast. Unless you're plugged in, faculty are not going to be able to catch up and be leading on the cutting edge research. So an important aspect is faculty interaction with industry, which is not just workshops and listening to guest lectures, but going into an industry physically. Give them time off, paid time off, let them go, get their hands dirty, get to understand the latest trends and technology in the chosen area of interest. I think examination reforms, student internship, we emphasize a lot. Oh, they should go for multiple meaningful student internship, which I'm a big proponent of, because once a student enters the industry, they understand, oh, wow, this is how I'm supposed to think. I'm supposed to design something. It just starts with basic. What is the choice of material for that particular component? A simple question. There will be 5 choices. Which one is the best choice? And you have so many other factors to consider. What happens if this component loses its longevity to life? How do I recycle it? Am I going to discard it? That's going to cause issues on environment. Or should I be looking at something that's recyclable, reusable, plus meets all the required specification? Just a simple example. This thought process will only come if both students and faculty have been to the industry, seen there, and have got first-hand experience. So that sort of interaction is important. Examination reforms, I think I already talked about it. And industry experts can come engage with students as many times as possible, because the ground reality gets set in with the students. So it's over and top of what we call guest lectures and workshops. Now, are the students going to be employable, or are they ready? Of course, all of the universities and everyone has probably a decent setup to inculcate the soft skills and life skills. And those are important, because just having technical knowledge is not enough. You ask any HR of any company, they would ask you for a list of attributes that this new recruit should have. And as another point I would add to it, where are the employment opportunities in India? I'm just talking about engineering discipline. Unfortunately, people are not in that discipline, bear with me. Employment is predominantly in IT services and IT product companies, predominantly. We still have quite a number of core jobs, but are significantly lagging behind these IT services and product companies. Now, Industry 4.0 is here. So the mechanical engineering, for example, what I used to study or my friends used to study is not the same today. Mechanical engineering should have all components of automation, programming, plus material science, controls, because they're talking, that is what the industry, the manufacturing floors, product designs are all about. It's an encompassing all of these categories, and knowledge about all of these are important. So the curricular aspect, pedagogical aspect, what is the industry need, that needs to come back into the academics. So that if we have a stronger tie, which I think a lot of initiatives by the government is happening, however, universities that can take advantage or leverage and implement those, move faster. We still have quite a few, large number of universities and colleges who still struggle. And the struggle is because, again, quality of faculty. Nobody ever said that, but I would say it openly. And the Vice Chancellor sitting here may or may not agree with me, but quality of faculty is an issue in India compared to the US and Europe and other countries. Okay, besides all of this, I think the curriculum should also have topics on eco-friendliness, net zero emission, low carbon footprint, recyclability. These are all things that should be inculcated into the curriculum. So when they start thinking, they have all of this built in, so their design comes out and they are better and stronger engineers. And besides that, all of them don't have to be employed. They can also be their own employers. I mean, they should start their own companies, and the university should be able to support that. Good big colleges and universities should have a vibrant, I would say, technology business incubator, encourage both students and faculty. They should be able to spin off something from the university research and encourage them. Technology enabling centers or Center for Entrepreneurial Skill Development. These things are extremely important because we may not have large numbers coming into this category, but this becomes an important category for Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. So with that, I would probably wrap up and say that it is not about numbers, it is about how we train these kids when they go through the process of learning. I think everything should be more application oriented and not just test based and grade based. Best skills can come from anywhere. We just need to tap, identify, encourage, motivate. And that sort of environment should be made available in every college.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your insights, sir. Your emphasis on accommodating more activities related to the experiential learning probably is the key here. Actually, we are running out of time, but I would have liked to ask a question to Dr. Sharma probably sometime later about how curriculum design can accommodate and free up some space for accommodating as many as possible experiential learning activities to help us achieve this goal of preparing industry-ready students. But the problem here is that for universities and autonomous institutions, it is possible. But what about the affiliated colleges? Probably that's the problem to solve in the future, maybe. And the policymakers are encouraging the institutions to become autonomous, and then that probably will help them address. They will become autonomous to change the curriculum the way they want, and as per their goals and program education objectives, most likely. So thanks a lot, Dr. Sasangan. Rahul ji, am I allowed to take one question from the audience? Because there is a very interesting question. Probably I wanted to actually ask that to Dr. Vijay Raghavan, if it is possible.
I'll upgrade him. Just 1 second. Let me find out.
Okay.
Vijay Raghavan, you said, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I think he's here. You may please go ahead.
Yeah, I've joined. Actually, I've been listening to the comments.
Dr. Vijay Raghavan, hello, hi. How are you doing?
Fine.
So I'm going to pick one question from the audience, and it is a very interesting one. I also come across with this question quite a few times. So this question is as follows. What are the challenges? What are the changes we should implement in our practical-based curriculum for online classes for better outcome-based teaching and learning?
Yeah.
This particular problem seems to be faced by the teachers who are conducting online classes, and they are unsure about the outcomes of their teaching on.
It's a very interesting question. From the healthcare point of view, being a doctor, this is a practical field where quite a lot of education actually requires experiential learning on the ground and actually going to the hospital. But because of COVID, there are quite a lot of restrictions. But the Western world have actually devised quite a lot of methods even for that. And some of the things that I would definitely like to mention here are actually the virtual ward rounds, the virtual OR sessions and things like that, which actually one can watch. And even if some procedures needs to be done, it can be done actually not on the real patient, but actually they can be done on computerized simulators, and the performance of the student can be sort of recorded, and the teacher, whenever he finds time, can always come and look at how best these people perform. The online education actually aligns itself very well for theoretical lecture-based teaching. However, the methodologies that are coming around, virtual ward rounds, the consultant goes and starts seeing patients. There is a possibility today, even with a hand device, to record what exactly he does, and it can be transmitted even to a group of about 200 people and things like that as audience. And their queries or some interaction of their questions on that obviously will have to be on the chat box as at present. But some point in time, if the technology and the network provides for it, it should be possible in much better ways. But these are early days. For India, I don't think we have advanced too much into that area at all. But I think this will come. The Microsoft actually gave a great demonstration to us. In fact, they are in a different platform of education, particularly online and things like that. Very interesting. They have come with this HoloLens, which is a new technology and provides for quite a lot of, but it can never match the actual patient experience. I'm sure Shetty would agree with me that the actual experiencing the patient is what is going to give the real learning for the postgraduate or for the undergraduate student in medicine. I'm not too sure how this can be handled for practical sessions in the engineering and other areas. But that's how I don't know whether I've answered your question completely.
But yes, thanks a lot, actually. Yes, I do agree with you that.
If you really permit me, I would like to add on to what Professor Vijay Raghavan has said. We are in a new age today. You could interact with the patient in a virtual mode more effectively than even otherwise. And unless we really create that environment by which we are able to utilize the power of connectivity and power of network and power of internet for creating this advantage education in all sectors, medical included, in my opinion, lot is possible. Let me also say that education is not merely by learning, but learning by practice. And this learning by practice is not only for medical, it applies to all disciplines. We have to create an environment in our institutions whereby we allow students to learn and learn by doing. And this is what exactly I did when I was professor in IIT, or for that reason, Delhi College of Engineering director and vice chancellor. I allowed my students the freedom to learn what they want to learn and let them learn by doing whatever they want to do. And they then find out that even if my own teachers are not able to teach that expertise, they go out and collaborate and learn. So learning by doing, I think, and learning by practice has emerged as an important agenda today if we wish to cause the necessary change in our learning environment. If we don't do it, if we keep on delivering the knowledge to our student community, I tell you, we'll be left behind. Let me finish by saying what Peter Decker has said almost 22 years ago when I became vice chancellor for the first time. Internet was just coming. He said 30 years from now, large universities shall be relics. 30 years from now, large universities shall be relics because internet is as big a challenge as it was when the first printed book was published. So be careful. In the times to come, there is a big challenge for universities to survive, not only here in India, but around the world. The whole world is taking this challenge seriously. 22 years apart. Another 8 years are there for the prophecy to come true. And thanks to COVID-19, much of the reality has arrived. So this is the part of the book which he published, New Realities, at the start of the 21st century. And I took note of it right at that time while setting out to establish Rajiv Gandhi Technological University, that unless we are careful about this major challenge of large universities becoming redundant for learning and for, in fact, acquiring knowledge, nobody will look at the degrees tomorrow. They will look at you, what you can do for the employer who is looking for a capable person. They would not look at even the degree, even if it is signed by Professor Sharma or anybody very high stature, vice chancellor who may say, I'm vice chancellor for long, doesn't matter. Question is what you are, what can you do, what have you learned by your own appetite of learning? That would matter much more. How would you be able to collaborate and learn in a team of interdisciplinary? That will matter more. And what you can contribute to innovative and creative abilities of the organization in terms of new products and new innovation, that will matter most. So I think we are in a new set of terms and new challenges are confronting. Let Indian higher education landscape change as fast as the others are beginning to change abroad. I've just returned from America and I found that a lot of changes in the learning environment are taking place. No longer teachers are teaching in the classroom for 50 minutes or so. They are giving a lot more work to learn by yourself, because the age of interactive learning, the age of self-learning has truly arrived. Thank you so much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. With this, actually, I would like to conclude the moderation of this event by thanking all the panelists, organizers, and the audience. Sorry, I could not address all the questions that are there, but thanks for your active participation. And actually, also, I would like to actually, request a big round of applause to our panelists. Thanks everyone. Over to you, Rahulji.
Professor Ujjwal.
Yes. Thank you. I'm here. So good to see. I was listening very intently. All our panelists. A lot of technological points are also taken up. They're not just general conceptual points, but a lot of technological points also taken up. In this part of the discussion, we are focusing on human capital. So on one side is human capital that we're evolving, and on the other side is the need to meet demanding industry needs. So demanding industry needs and the human capital, how do we match? But before that, we had Ajay Bhagwat ji the Director of Inpods. Thank you very much, the moderator. Now let's call from the second sponsor, let's call Nitil Gupta. Mr. Nitil Gupta is an EdTech evangelist into bringing in technology in education sphere. He represents Edu Vacancy. So I request Nitin Gupta to speak about the role that Edu Vacancy can bring to the higher education table. After which we will enter into the panel. Over to you, Mr. Nitin Gupta from Edu Vacancy.
Yeah, thanks all of you. I think all the eminent panelists and all the eminent audience, those who are there attending this particular session. I am Nitin, co-founder of Edu Vacancy, and this is a recruitment platform which we have created for the education sector. Because what happened in the last couple of years, what we have observed is every sector which is growing very fast, be it education or let's talk about the startup movement or other movements, you find a niche platform coming to recruit in that particular sector, and that's how the dynamics of recruitment system in the country and the ecosystem is changing. So Edu Vacancy, what we know that education sector is also growing very fast, and if you see in education sector, if you divide it into subparts, you will find schools, colleges, universities, and then comes the edtech companies. According to the Startup India latest news, we have got a small and big all clubbed together 3,500 edtech companies registered in the country, and they're growing at by leaps and bounds. And apart from that, the test prep companies, the companies which are offering coaching classes for entrance exams like IITs and banking and government jobs and others, they're also growing at a very fast pace. And at the same time, the vocational training institutes and the skill enhancement institutes are also growing, because India really need skill develop skilled people to actually tackle the new technology and the new concepts which are coming up. And it's rightly said by so many entrepreneurs in the world now that 60 to 70% jobs are going to be obsolete in coming 5 years. And we all have to see that how we can enhance the skills of the students and how they can understand where exactly they have got the position where they can work and they can perform well. So I think keeping in mind all these things, we have created Edu Vacancy, which is a unique education recruitment platform where we have got video resume, which is a very unique feature, because we know in teaching community and the education community, video resume can help employer to judge the candidate in a better way. And at the same time, we have got the interview inbuilt in the system itself, so that we all know one more thing, that at times the decision makers are all not together while taking the interview of a candidate. So I think if one or two decision makers are present in taking the interview, they can take it and later on show the dashboard to the other decision makers when they are going to be there, and they can even give marks and everything on the dashboard itself, so that they can take decision easy, because technology is all about making things very easy out there. So that is how we are working on. And as rightly said by one of the professors here, industry institute interface is very, very important when we talk about the higher education. And that is going to come when the industry people are going to be continuously interacting with the students across the country. I know Professor Sharma, who was from IIT. So I think we all know one thing, the top institutes, I'm not talking about the IITs, IIMs and Accelerise and BITS and others, but we know that the average B schools and average management schools in the country, and apart from that, even the normal professional colleges, they seriously need good faculties, and the faculties, those who can add value. We understand that we need to create that kind of ecosystem also, where they can put more in, they can provide more and more research papers and more interaction with the industry. So what we have done in the platform is we have created a freelancer area where the people, those who are working in the industry, are coming there, putting their resumes and giving them slots that they are available on Saturdays and Fridays between this and this time, and this is what they charge for that. I think that is going to make very easy for the employers to pick the freelancers, those who are industry experts working in different industries, and they can call them in the universities and colleges, and they're definitely going to add value out there. So I think this is a very, very unique feature on Edu Vacancy, the freelancer concept, and we are continuously adding candidates in that particular domain also. So I think that is what we are doing on Edu Vacancy. And next thing which is there is, like, as of now, we have got close to 115K employees and 15,000 employers. And we are catching very fast the higher education domain also, because there is a need of good faculties and good, fresh PhD candidates coming out of the colleges. So like what we have done for the B.Ed colleges, we are definitely going to do very soon with the PhD colleges, the universities also, which are offering the PhD programs, uh, have plugged in the alumni network to the B.Ed colleges so that we can get the fresh candidates from there and they can be there on the edu vacancy platform. Similarly, we are now plugging in the alumni platform with the PhD candidates in the different universities so that they can be there, the fresh candidates, and they can be there with us on the platform so that the higher education institutions can figure out them and they can always take their interviews out there and they can hire them out there. So a very easy way to hire the people, and we have got mobile app, iOS and Android, so people can download that also once they register, because employer and employee, both of them need to register from the web platform, but after that they can use the mobile platform, which is going to be handy to give them information ki how many candidates have applied, and they can schedule the interview also on the platform itself. So this platform has got so many benefits, and very soon with the help of industry and institutes and universities, we are coming up with the skill enhancement for the employees available on the edu vacancy platform, and we would really love to have your feedback also, what all skills you feel that key and that should be added to the candidates, especially for higher education. We can definitely work in that direction and help the candidates to enhance those skills so that they are going to be better in those skills, and can be of more their productivity is going to be much better in that case once they're going to join any institute. So that's all from my side from edu vacancy. Do visit www.eduvacancy.com.
Yeah, you can write the portal in the chat box. It's very good to see, very interesting to see human resource or academic resource portal, academic resource think tank that's coming up, and this is where you can also get registered, get your intellectual resources for various positions. People coming from academic background, even people from professional background coming into academics also can be perhaps brought together on this platform. Very good to know. Thank you, Nitilji, and good to have you amongst all these senior professionals from the academic field here. We move to the panel discussion now. And in the panel discussion, interestingly, we have 5 panelists. And since I have already seen that usually it's very tough to have the second round or the third round, so we'll try to take the points in the first round as much as possible, but not crossing 5 to 6 minutes. 5 minutes ideally, I request. Second, I would also request that the panelists may continue answering the questions in the chat box put forth by the audience, because one of the points of the audience, one of the motivation of the audience members, I have been myself as attendee in many programs, is when you actually bring in the answers, bring in the answers as you can, as you speak, so while X is speaking, Y, Z, A, B, C can write on the chat box answering these questions. It's important to engage with the audience on screen and also through chat box. That's my first request to all the panelists. The 5 panelists, let me introduce them one by one and call them first. First, let me tell that this session is focusing on the connectivity of human capital development on campus with the demanding industry needs. So what do the various industries post-pandemic demand or need? And on the other side, how are universities preparing them for the post-pandemic scenario? Please do not give a general talk. Please customize it to the current situation where the workforce requirements are changing in a blended scenario. Education and employment, both going blended. In many cases, it's remote functioning itself. And in many cases, certain domains are getting strengthened while certain domains are suffering. So in the given context, how do you connect the human capital that you prepare, that you nurture with the industry demands? We have with us Dr. Srinivasan R. Iyengar, the director of JBIMS University of Mumbai and a very well-known management school, Jamnalal Bajaj Institute. Everyone is aware of it. Dr. Swati Lodha, director of MET Institute of Management. Interestingly, Dr. Swati was an entrepreneur at 21 years of age, founding Swash. And today, apart from running B School, She writes on parenting, and I have a very interesting name of the book that she has written, 54 Reasons Why Parents Suck. It is indeed very interesting. Why do I suck? It's very important to know for my daughter. In fact, my daughter would love to know that more. Dr. Rudresh Pandey, Director of GNIOT MBA Institute, Greater Noida Institute of Technology MBA. The director of that, Dr. Rudresh Pandey, would also be speaking here. Dr. Vikas Singh, I have been meeting him across many webinars in past, and we have been meeting since our last jobs. When I was Pro-Vice Chancellor of Adamas, and Sir was the Vice Chancellor of SAGE. Since then, today he is the VC of ITM University Raipur, and we'll be listening to him as well. And Dr. Arvind Kumar Jain, the Dean of School of Basic and Applied Sciences, Galgotias University. Let's begin with Dr. Srinivasan R. Iyengar. Dr. Srinivasan R. Iyengar, it would be our pleasure to listen to you. You lead one of India's leading business school, Jamnalal Bajaj, as the director under the University of Mumbai. How do you think are you connecting the human capital that you are preparing with the industry needs? Over to you, Dr. Iyengar.
Thank you, sir. Hope I am audible to everyone.
Yes, you are audible. You can be a little louder.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be there for the wonderful gathering. Glad to see most of the Vice Chancellor and Deans are there in the program. It is something interesting. I would like to share, as Ujjwal sir said, categorically, we do something to industry, not specific to institutes. I would like to share a couple of experience, which we experience even as I became a director of Jamnalal Bajaj, because we always try to talk about what is happening in industry, because we are a business school, we try to address the students, we try to give the student based on industry needs, right? But when you are seeing that last 2 years placement scenario during the COVID, some outstanding experiences coming in our portfolio. Last week when we had a placements, we could able to complete it just 3 days. First time in 65 years, we could able to place the students in just 3 days, and out of them, 50 students are consulting portfolio. Today we had a long discussion with them. What made placement this year? We could able to complete it 3 days. So what is the industry is changing? Is it same trend? We are in Mumbai for almost 75 years. Is it industry is doing outstanding well? No. Then we realized that something industry is changing. Today the business current scenarios were changing. For an example, I like to bring Schumpeter theory of economic development. That Schumpeter writes regularly column in Economist magazine. And when he talked about today industry, for an example, he has done that analysis for 300 years in the industry. When you see that the earlier business started on the first generation, so-called water and power and textile were the more business are focused. And during that time, that is called first wave. He decided that it should be called first wave. That industry survived for almost 60 years. I'm talking about this is early or late 17th century. This is research what I'm sharing today of 300 years history about business scenario. And but if we talk about second wave started, that also survived for 55 years. And that time the second wave mainly focused on rail, steam, steel industry. Slightly textile too, we moved to this scenario. And the third wave happened early 19th century, where electricity, chemical, combustions, these are all the things were started. That is also survived for 50 plus years. When they invented the aircraft, petrochemical, electricals came in the late 1950, that also survived for 40 plus years. But the one fantastic things which happening, it happened during the late 90s, the birth of WWW, World Wide Web. That changed the complete business model. In fact, it's very happy to share this information because we floated the course on advanced course on strategy on reinventing business model. Today, for IIMs, we are teaching that it is one of the flagship courses. How to reinvent your business. In fact, I'm thinking different. Even these schools need to be reinvented. If you are in the business of placing the students, because the conventional model may not be surviving it. In fact, last week I was there in Directors Forum of top IIMs. We talked about what is the business model, what we talk about. Nobody can able to replicate the business model of Jamnalal Bajaj, where we get 1 lakh application for 120 students. with the 4 lakh rupee fees with 7 faculty, I think nobody can able to replicate our placement scenario. We don't have world-class infrastructure. We don't have world-class faculty. But what makes them to do? Because still we talk about the value ethics. I was mentioning the earlier discussion also, where we can position ourselves in the global market. I think country himself, we have to do something later. That I come to the part later, the part. So we talk about the digital technology which disrupted the industry. That's the word I would like to repeat. So what else happening in the business? Because of digitization, there are many innovation happening. When I say innovation, disruptive innovation also happen. When I say disruptive innovation in academia, I don't say that it is going to happen over the night. That conventional incumbents getting a competition from small players who can able to compete the bigger players with the limited resources. I don't say abroad is going to compete with us or Coursera is going to compete with us. But the course what they offer, I think still our conventional business schools can't able to deliver that with that price. It's an inconvenient truth. We have to think it over as an academician. So what is happening in industry now? So today we talk about we are moving towards the economy that Schumpeter talks about. The conventional jobs are going to die. Now I'm thinking in my journal or Bajaj, we couldn't able to place the students on advertising, branding, so forth. That was one of the highest recruiter earlier days. But today my placement not happening. My today placement happening in consulting. Today my industry is asking something about analytics. Today we need people on digital marketing, which is not our curriculum talks about more. So what we talk about today, that innovation happening with the disruptive innovation or introduction happening on product. Today the production wise, supply chain wise, new market capability and competencies, and the new technology driven. And today you see which economy are we going about? Today, I do train to multiple corporates, India's finest corporate as a trainer. When I happened to go, I don't want to name it. That company took us to introduce their staff. They said, sir, the 1,000 employees, do you know the beauty? They are all less than 30. I said, wow. So what will happen if the guys become 40 plus, they become jobless? Today it's look good. After 10 years, what will happen to those guys? Today, every company says we are young, vibrant organization. And the interesting story comes here. So what type of employment are you going to talk about? Everywhere we talk about disruption, right? One disruption, what we talk about, today we are moving toward the economy to scarcity to surplus economy. What is surplus to scarcity economy? You can see every industry today, if we talk about all unicorn, tradecon, there are multiple cons are coming up the market. Tell me what all those business are they in, what type of jobs are they create? Today Swiggy also became unicorn to then move to another level. And how many jobs they created in the, they are created a wonderful job, but what level, what capacity? Are they in the real jobs? Today we talk about gig economy. Today,
to you, sir.
Yeah.
We will come back to you again in the second round.
Let's so I'd like to conclude that thanks for Ujjwalji for stopping it, because we are academicians. We know how to start and where to end. This is a challenge, but I restrict myself. Today, what I said, our course need to be integrated with industry. Industries towards moving towards Industry Revolution 4, 5. We talk about digital disruption age. Today we talk about speed. We talk about accessibility. We talk about innovation. If this course, if we could able to equip our students to match the industry standard, we can survive. Sorry.
Right. Right. Perfectly right. That's well spoken. The same question I have asked to one of my former students who is now an employer. He boasts that all the employees he has are all below 30 years. Obviously, it's an institute, it's an organization connected more with the digital industry, all below 30. And this question I also asked him: what happens to these guys when they are 40? And what happens to? So his answer was, that's for them to find how they reinvent themselves. My job is that since I am in an industry which requires new technologies, new perceptions, which is digitally driven. So yes, there is one person above 30, but because he is from the very beginning, he is a continuity also, and he has evolved also over time. So the answer to this question is, getting a job is not the goal of life now. Learning to learn, remaining relevant in the industry in the long run. And that's true for a doctor, and that's true for a manager. That's true for a technocrat, and that's true for an academic like us as well. I know in my last university, Several of my senior professors actually had to leave when they were told categorically that you have to produce MOOCs, one MOOCs each one. So that was also a challenge for many of them. So because many people who are above 55, above 60, above 65 were not in mental position, above 65 were not there, 55 to 65, that age group, they were not open to producing MOOCs over in a short time. And that was the need of the time at that point of time, as you know. Integrating the physical and the digital was tough for them. So moving to the next speaker, I now have the pleasure of inviting the lady, Dr. Swati Lodha, Director, Amity Institute of Management. As I said, she was an entrepreneur at 21 with Swash. And at the current age, she is now a parenting scholar as well, parenting consultant as well, with a book called 54 Reasons Why Parents Suck. My daughter would really love to get this book. Over to you, Dr. Swati Lodha.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. Thank you so much. And I know that your daughter would, really love to read it. And this is how I perceive the changing world. Yeah, there were a lot of parents, and there were a lot of students also who told me that why are you using parents and suck in the same line? It is sacrilege to do so. But this is how the times are changing. This is how the youngsters talk. And so I don't see anything wrong there. And I was listening to, first of all, my apologies for joining in late. I was speaking at Z Business. So I was on television at that time. And so it delayed me a little bit. My apologies. I think we are talking about human capital management, right, Professor Ujjwal? That is what we are trying to talk here. Yeah?
Human capital management and mapping it to the industrial needs of today.
Yes. So for me, when we talk about age, as Srinivas sir was saying right now, that, it is the way we are moving, I don't know where will it all end. But I think the right approach is definitely a change in the mindset that we need. I'm 46 right now. All of us here are kind of seniors, if we think about age. And becoming mentors is what I think would work for all of us. Mentors means we are mentors as well as interns. So we work with the both mindsets. We are ready to teach people, we are ready to train our students, we are ready to facilitate, but at the same time, we have an interning mindset also. And so we are ready to learn, as you very rightly said, learning to learn is the thought forward, is the action plan forward. So the human capital, if we think of the right systems, the industry gap, we can bridge the gap by thinking about hiring right, training right, motivating right, and retaining right. All the four things are going to be needed for that. If we don't do any of this right, there's going to be a problem. And right means there has to be a fluidity in the whole system. I'm not appreciative of the fact that young means, excellent, or people who are young are the ones who can take us forward. And the digital transformation talks about updating and upskilling all the time. So yes, for any kind of human capital to stay human capital, it is important now that we keep reinventing ourselves, we keep reskilling ourselves. There is something new that has to go on in our lives. As we say that earlier we used to have, different maybe jobs at times, not simultaneously, but now it is a plethora of careers that we enjoy. There could be simultaneous careers which could be going on in our lives. Many of us here would be having some side hustles, or many of us would be even running some social initiative, would be even doing something extra. So human capital, which is trained right, which is ready to be, which is self-motivated to keep learning, is what is the future, right? So that is what I think about it.
Great. That's a very good perspective. I do agree, and I often argue with my daughter that you can teach me some technology, I can teach you some perspectives. some
Definitely.
perspectives. So I can give you the y-axis, axis, and you can give me certain softwares and things like that. She is in a digital ad agency, so she would be giving me a lot of gyan every now and then.
Of
How to
course.
reach out to the audiences.
And I also believe that we should always, mentor privately, and we should intern,
Publicly.
openly. Yes.
I like it. I really like this.
Works. Mentor
And this
privately
term,
and intern publicly.
I
to
will
stay
tell
fluent.
her. I will tell her this: mentor privately and intern publicly, or learn publicly. That's a very good way of looking at it. Thank you. That's one perspective that has been brought forth, and we will now look at from an engineering or science or STEM perspective. Let me call Dr. Arvind Kumar Jain. Dr. Arvind Kumar Jain, who is the Dean of Galgotias University, School of Basic and Applied Sciences. How do you, how do you look at this whole issue of preparing human resource, human capital for the changing times, particularly in science? Technology is understandable, but going beyond technology, specifically in basic and applied science. Over to you, Dr. Jain.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very sorry for a bad thought today.
No, you are very clear. You are very clear.
In present scenario, we have faced challenges of pandemic, go online. The science play a very important role, because when I'm discussing with my students that what lesson as a science student you learn from the corona pandemic, and after discussion it's come out that whatever knowledge we gain before the pandemic, it doesn't work during the pandemic to us. So as science students, we are inventing everything new kind of medicine, new vaccines, new protocol for the medical systems. We are working on it. Same thing I am telling to my students, that be ready for the future. Like earlier, we are having number of gadgets we are using, and nowadays in a single mobile, all gadgets has been integrated. So the integration of system will happen. So student has to be ready for future needs, as well as the education which they are getting should be based for the society. The students, I just quote an example to you. I was teaching one university, I'm not giving the name. One student come to me for their MTech program, and the father asked me, sir, what will be the package of my son after completing this course? And my answer was very rough to them. I tell them, if you are coming only for the package, then your son must have opened a vegetable shop. He can invest daily, earn daily. If you want your son have a good fame in the society and as well as earn for the future, then leave your son with me, I'll give them. That parent convinced with me, the student rest for 2 years with me. We mold them, guide them that in classroom education not only enough, you go to the industry for ready-made technology development, and from there that student goes to US for his doctorate and settled over there. So my point is that as an educator, it's our role to guide the student in a proper manner. Similarly, an issue was coming up in the discussion that the industry is having only young generation of the employee. Where the senior will go? It is the duty of the academia to train the trainers. Those who are working in the industry, is the duty of the academia to reskill them. Like in the academics, we are training the teachers through faculty development programs. we have to train the industry employee for their need, seeking the requirement of industry, because hiring a new employee is always not good for the industry also, because loyalty factor will be there, and every time you can introduce a new person, it's not possible in the market. So my point of view, two things we have to do: train the trainers of the industry. Second point of thing is, those students coming to the academia as a scientist, I'm saying that train them for the future requirement. Thank you very much.
Great. So the key point is understanding and mapping the future requirements, where you can put people. Now, understanding this is a critical thing. It's quite easy to say that we must have our training mapping onto the future needs of society and industry, but very tough to actually do it. And now we call someone who heads the full university and has been doing for a long time across several universities, Dr. Vikas Singh, the Vice Chancellor of ITM University Raipur, to focus on how you can really understand the future needs of industry and society and accordingly orient today's human channel, human capital for tomorrow's needs. Over to you, Dr. Vikas Singh.
Thank you, Ujjwal. Always a pleasure to be sharing, platform with you, panel with you. And I think it's second time that I'm getting privileged to share panel with Dr. Swati also. Pleasure meeting you, ma'am, once again. Ujjwal, the topic is, thanks to ASMA, that the topic is very, very, I would say, pertinent nowadays. And why I'm saying this, because, the change is happening so fast, and especially during last 2.5 years, the change has been so progressive that even we all, couldn't predict what is going to happen. And even if I ask, maybe that what is going to happen 6 months down the line, we all are, in quite some dark right now. So how to, address this issue? We had a good meetings, at our place in our university. All the senior, heads, directors, we all sat together, especially during, the last Board of Studies meeting, because we were all expecting that, we need to gear up, we need to pull our socks, we need to redesign ourselves if we want our students to remain relevant. And, I'll be sharing, because you have given me 5 minutes time, to let me share what we have understood and how we are trying to address this issue. The first thing that we all, gathered on or all focused on was that maybe, team working is very essential for these kids. But in the coming times, maybe, what Swati mentioned, about this side hustle, it will be very essential that these kids can perform on their own as well. They can look at the problem and they can try to design a solution to that problem. So what we have done, we have made design thinking a compulsory course in all the programs, whether you join the School of Life Sciences, you join the School of Commerce and Management and Research, you join School of Law, you join any program, any school at my place, design thinking is going to be one compulsory course, which is going to train you how to look at problem and how to figure out certain unique solution. So this is first, we incorporate the change. The second change, again, some of you might absolutely disagree with me, but the second change was we also made artificial intelligence as a compulsory capsule course across all the programs, all the schools. Because what we believe, today you write a mail, we all are witnessing it, the Google suggests us what to write next. Artificial intelligence, the way it is penetrating all the verticals, all the businesses, I personally believe, and all my heads were of the same opinion, that artificial intelligence we cannot dare to avoid. And it means every student of every program, every school will be doing a compulsory, and thanks to the new education policy, thanks to this, choice-based credit system, we have this opportunity now. So we have maintained that this is going to be a compulsory program, compulsory course. Third change which we brought in was compulsory peer group activities. Because it is very difficult to perform or to bring results if you are not a good team player, if you do not have a solid EQ. IQ is important, but I think EQ and social quotient is more important than IQ in the years to come. So these three activities we made compulsory across all the courses, and I'm very happy to share with you that in all the board of studies, the experts from industry, the experts from other institutions, they were very happy to see the initiative of our university. Another important point, I would like to share what Ujjwal, you mentioned, about the lifelong learning. Just 2 days back, I was watching that India-Africa match. Unfortunately, we lost that match, but I was very pleasantly surprised. After every completion of every over, there was at least one advertisement either from Byju's or from Unacademy or from some other platform which is for lifelong learning. I am very confident that India has learned its lesson very, very timely, very, very quickly. Like all the, we do not find that sabun tel ad anymore. We are finding the ads of Byju's and all those ads, coming after every over, which shows that we all have appreciated and learned the lesson that lifelong learning is here to stay. Now, what we have done here in that direction is that we have, understanding that human capital is not only limited to the students at my place, and taking a broad view of, also covering faculty members and staff members here. We have started 2-3 practices. Every good university, worth its salt, is having programs to develop their faculty members and staff members. So what steps we are taking at my place, I'll be sharing that quickly with you in 1 minute. Like we have a colloquium practice. Every week on Saturday, there is a faculty colloquium, which is compulsory for all the faculty members to attend. It can be physical, it can be online, depending on the situation. But a faculty from a school is giving some interesting discussion, and all the faculty of all the other schools are having some, understanding of that particular topic. So a faculty of law is understanding about architecture, a faculty of management understanding about hotel management, or maybe the kitchen, all those things. This colloquium actually has helped our faculty members to grow their understanding, acquaintance with areas outside their main domain. For students, what we are doing, we are having, for staff members, what we are doing, we have started a program by the name Pillar. And this Pillar is basically a series of SDPs that every week we are going to have 2-hour session on staff development. So first half, faculty colloquium, second half, staff development Pillar. And there is another unique thing, again, all universities must be having, for any person completing PhD while being an employee at my university, there is a cash reward of 50,000 rupees. Now, I'm not saying the amount is very huge, but 50,000 rupees, irrespective whether you are doing from my university, irrespective whether you have started in your earlier job, irrespective that you are doing from some other university, if you complete PhD while you are my faculty or my staff, you are going to get a cash reward of 50,000 rupees as the recognition of your lifelong learning that you are developing yourself. So there are several other initiatives which we are taking here. Maybe I'll come to that as well in the next round when you give me the chance.
Very well said, sir. Thank you. I really very much appreciate the design thinking point that you brought in, because I do believe with automation coming in, artificial intelligence and machine learning coming in, and IoT coming in, lot of jobs, what we know as jobs done by human beings, will not be done by human beings. Absolutely. What is significant is that any programmed identity, any robot can do something which is already templated, cannot create the template, even at this point of time of the growth of artificial intelligence. Human intelligence is required for creating the first template, the first creative outcome, and hence, therefore, the focus should be of learning on creativity, innovation, problem solving, crisis management, teamwork, and leadership, and not on learning something that can be repeated ad nauseum as a skill set. So something, repeatability as a skill set is completely dying out. And hence design thinking, which comes to actually solve a problem through a critical and an aesthetic solution. That approach of design thinking, very required, and you are very right. I hope I could send to all of you through a WhatsApp. There is Indian Express story, I think yesterday, which has already told that IIMs have decided to admit students who are not even graduates. So the CAT will be made open. Application to CAT will be made open, and admissions can be done. I'm telling you the title of the story, very, very significant, because this is something complete. IIM Ahmedabad scraps bachelor's degree as a criterion for MBA admissions. Wonderful. Indian Express, and this is of the date. It will open up. This is of the date January 25, that is today, 2:51 at just around 3 p.m. So think of it. If Iyengar sir is opening up non-graduate MBAs in JBIMS, think of it. If Lodha madam is opening up non-graduate admissions in MBA, this is the scenario. Degree centricity is here to die. Degree centricity is here to die also in the context that already 5 of the top 20 companies of the world, which are largely IT and digital based companies, they have already told that a BTech or a bachelor's degree is not compulsory to apply for them. So please understand the significance that the 1047 universities of India still now hold that you can trade your degree for some fee is going to die out over a period of time. And unless there is a value addition much beyond the degree becomes a byproduct of the system and not the purpose of the system, then only your education system will survive. So great thing, design thinking, teamwork, peer work that you are saying, group work, that teaches both teamwork and leadership. Great. And you also talked lifelong learning, repeating it, that learning to learn is hence important. How do I teach 5 and then leave 6 and 7 to be learned organically? My structured syllabus teaches a few things. That is the fixed syllabus of the university. But I create a situation, a motivation and a system by which the learner goes beyond the structured learning. The structured syllabus moves on to organic learning, which is learning to learn, which is project-based learning. These are necessary in times to come, in the current times, to make the human resource really mapped on to the industry's needs. Because by the time a learner enters into first year, the softwares, the technologies which are in vogue, some of them may not be in vogue by the time the person passes out. And hence learning to learn is very critical. I would also request everyone in the audience to continue asking questions on the chat box. And I request everyone to answer, but mind it that you should mark everyone and not host and panelists, everyone, while you are answering the questions. So let that continue. A second line of communication continues. And now let me bring to you the last, but surely not the least, panelist who has waited for long to be speaking here. Thank you, sir. Someone has to be, and I often have been the last speaker in panels myself, to Dr. Arvind Kumar, Dr. Rudresh Pandey, Dr. Rudresh Pandey, the director of Greater Noida Institute of Technology, MBA Institute from Greater Noida. Over to you, Dr. Pandey, for your perspectives on human capital, industry needs, and matching.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Ujjwal, first of all, for giving this chance. And I would, first of all, I'll agree with you that my daughter will also love to read the book from Dr. Swati. So this is the change.
Incidentally, sir, it is written by my daughter too. It is written, it is co-authored by me.
Okay. You can keep a link, Dr. Swati.
I will send it over. Sure.
Yes. I would also love to have your book.
I'll do it right away, sir. Thank you.
So, in fact, I would share with my friends and people who are parents of teenage
yes,
kids. I would like to, first of all, I'll agree with a lot of panelists here. Dr. Srinivasan started with how things are changing so fast. and especially the education and how things are changing and how businesses are reinventing and innovation have become important. Dr. Arvind told us so many things that they have done in their university and the importance of science. Dr. Vikas told us the importance of design thinking and lifelong learning and the changes which he has done in his university. So one thing which is common across the speakers here, that we are in an era which is changing. And as Dr. Srinivasan said, that WWW changed everything and how things have changed. I would just give one example here, that if you look at the things, how the time lapse between discovery and its application is decreasing very progressively. For example, photography was first conceived in 1727, but there was a lag of around 112 years before camera appeared on the market somewhere in 1840s. The same thing happened with radio when the radio waves were established, and around 30-40 years it took us to have a radio transmission. But look at what is happening now. The research in university, and there is a lot of pressure on the universities and researchers, and they have a demand from the industry, and they have to come up with their research which is applicable and which is used by the industry. So now what is happening, and I'll give you my experience of also of a smaller institute. What I have seen here is that there is a lot of requirement from the higher education institutes, that what is happening is there's a lot of selective hiring which is happening, hiring right people, hiring on their ability, trainability, and commitment. You see, what is happening is there's a lot of performance difference between an average performance and a high performer. So this is making companies think on their hiring process. And there is also importance of self-managed teams in this era when things are so automated and so technology driven. And there is also importance of compensation which is performance based, and training in the relevant skills is very important, and that is where institutions like us come in. And what we have done in our institute is we have created a very flat organization, and we are focusing on skills, the relevant skills which is needed in the industry. You see, you have to remember that human capital development is crucial for attaining a successful economic growth and development. And to create a knowledge-based economy in the light of technological advancements which we are seeing today and in the globalization, it is inevitable need to increase innovative capacity and transmission of knowledge. Higher education is a prerequisite for production of highly competent experts, which in turns contribute to development of organization and economy at large. Higher education, therefore, is expected to play an important role and increasing role in the development of human capital of the nation. So here, what we see is that I would like to put a question here and being a last person who's giving the introduction, that my experience have been that we have to distinguish between growth, modernization, and development. So development is an economic, is it an economic growth, or development is imbibing to modern values and attitude, or development is coming to a greater equality and social justice. Modernization till some time back was more of a Americanization, and so we have moved on to from development to globalization in this era today. And globalization can be understood as set of processes that increasingly make parts of the world more independently integrated. So I would also put this for the panel here, that what we are talking about when we are talking about development, and role of higher education becomes very, very important here. And we have to be very relevant today in our roles. Otherwise, as Professor Sharma in the last panel discussion was also talking, that with internet and with probably things changing so fast, as Dr. Srinivasan also said, there is a possibility that we may become irrelevant in times to come. So this is all from my side. Over to you,
Great.
Professor Ujjwal.
Great. Very good question. What is development? What do you mean by development? That's a very good question, and we need to ponder over. In economics, we study two concepts, development and growth. Growth is more statistical, development is more qualitative. And as against gross domestic product, there are concepts of gross national happiness that Bhutan and many other organizations have, many other nations have put forth. In fact, a happiness day, International Happiness Day, is also being proposed now. So there are issues on the models of development that we have. And pandemic has shown that indiscriminate quote unquote development may actually lead to a situation where survival of civilization comes to a basic question. Before I ask everyone for your closing comments, where you can look at next year, 2022 and beyond, that was the topic. That's why over the next 1 year, how do you look at, what sort of ideas do you have for implementing or executing or bringing in, which will make your human capital more relevant to the needs of society and industry which are emerging? So before I call each one of you for 1 minute talk only, because now it's a closing time, I would like to, on my own note, a point. In my opinion, the concept of teacher and student is dead. Teacher was, we know what teacher was. So let me say, instead of teacher, it's mentor. A mentor is a learner. Let me reiterate what Dr. Lodha said, mentor. So mentor is a learner and a mentor simultaneously. A mentor mentors within and beyond the classroom, within the structured syllabus and beyond the syllabus in organic learning. A mentor is a much broader concept. Whereas similarly, the student learns inside the classroom from the teachers, from the books, a bit from the internet, and studies for marks and exams. But whereas a learner learns within and beyond the classroom, from the mentors, from the peers, as Vikas Singh has said, Dr. Vikas Singh, from the peers, and also from the digital sources. A learner learns from experiences as well, and hence experiential learning is very important. So if we move to a mentor-learner model, then we understand that a teacher who is now a mentor is not supposed to introduce the topic in the classroom first time. And a teacher and a student who is now a learner is not supposed to come to the classroom without knowing what is going to happen. So there has to be flipped classroom. And for the flipped classroom to happen, proprietary content, learning resources of the mentors, that is his or her own videos, audios, PowerPoint, case studies, all of these infographics, and aggregated content from the available ecosystem, both need to be curated together, given much in advance to the learner, to the LMS, through whatever sort of form or technology you have, much in advance, 10, 15 days in advance, so that the learner reasonably learns, not by reading alone, reading, watching, listening, and introspecting. All this foredone, then comes to the digital or the physical classroom, synchronously, after the asynchronous learning, synchronously, to discuss and debate, to clarify doubts, answer quiz questions, and put forth their own perspectives. This is significant, and which is not happening largely across the country, because we are habituated to students coming to classroom with the bag anyhow, without even knowing what's going to be taught. Teachers coming and introducing from scratch, from ABCD with a PowerPoint or a great lecture of a sage on the stage. And thereby notes are given, notes are shared, politics are done, romances are done all across the notes, and exams are given at the end of the course. So therefore, creating new type of learning content, proprietary and aggregated, then curating them, then putting through flipped classroom, delivering it, And then going on to the synchronous classroom, digital or physical, engaging the learner within the classroom and beyond the classroom through digital means. And finally, an evaluation, which is open book, which is proctored, which is face-to-face, which is practical in the studio, and which is field-based. There are 16 types of evaluations that can be done. I tried bringing all this in Adamas University, partially successful. Mindset is very different of most of the teachers. And to justify themselves, they will always keep quoting UGC. Are UGC ne ye bola hai, UGC ne wo bola hai, jabki sare baatein sach nahi hai. Much of the thing is challenged by new education policy already. I'm trying to do the same thing in this university now where I am in Bangladesh. So the point I'm trying to say here is that we need a fresh thinking where mentorship is required, mentor plus internship, where new proprietary content is required, and that has to be changed every year because the knowledge moves from not on academic calendars, knowledge moves by performances, knowledge moves by innovations. So these are certain things that I would like to bring forth before this panel, before this August gathering that is listening to it. Over to you. We start with Dr. Vikas Singh this time. I think Dr. Srinivasan is busy in some other activity. So Dr. Vikas Singh, if you could speak first, your closing comments. Year ahead, 22 and 23, what do you prescribe to bring human capital close to industry?
Uzul, I'll try to complete in 1 minute. I have seen so many over my 30 years career. I've seen so many people, those who are very successful, but at the same time very unhappy with their career. And I think this positioning of unhappy and successful people is not going to stay for long. Now these young kids, they are saying the parents suck. So they are equally going to say that the bosses suck and the industry suck, and we are not going to have unhappy and successful people anymore. So what we are doing at my place, buying from the concept that you have mentioned, we have 4-way mentorship now. And what is the meaning of 4-way mentorship? Right in the first year, we have individual career plan. We call it ICP. And in the first semester itself, there is a mentor from the department and there is a mentor from the training and placement team. Then there is a mentor from the alumni group. So these 3 mentors are there for hand-holding right from the first semester. And in the pre-final year, when the student goes for internship, then automatically there is one industry mentor is also allocated to a individual student. And what is the outcome? The outcome is there is a lot of debate, lot of discussion, frequent meetings every semester, and whatever the personality or whatever the interest area that comes out, and then the student can make individual career plan based on their positive personality features, interest areas, possibilities, availability of options. And that's how the human capital can be attuned with the individual basis for the requirement of industry.
Great. Multiple mentorship. The focus is on multiple mentorship. Thank you. And mentorship at different levels, not just at the top level from the hierarchy. So what you basically are calling to break the concept of rigid hierarchy and create multiple mentorship. Over to you, Dr. Swati Lodha, your recipe for the next 2 years.
Okay, I like the term recipe. Huh? As soon as you saw me, you realized that that word will work here. All right. Thank you, sir. When Dr. Pandey was talking about the difference in development, growth, and, how do we see this changing now? I have completed writing a book called 360 Degrees. And I'm trying to sum up what Dr. Singh said and what Dr. Pandey said. In this book, I have tried to give a small framework for personal excellence. And this time in our institute, when the new batch came in for the MBA program, in the induction, we had a small session called 360 Degrees. It was only a 15 minutes thing with them. But in those 15 minutes, I just tried to tell them that it is not enough to be successful as a professional. We are talking about 360-degree excellence here. So what you do is you have to try and be good enough in all the roles that you play. So for human capital management, what we have developed is a small 5-pointer framework, which is, to create excellence in your life as a person, a partner, a professional, a parent, and a perennial. So it is a 5-pointer for any young person also, that this is what your life is all about. Know yourself as a person, as a professional, as a partner, as a parent, and as a perennial. If you are able to do this, then we can see all the things converge together: the success, the happiness, the ambition, the growth, the professional achievement, but at the same time thinking about reinventing life at every new decade of our lives.
Thank
So
you.
it is important to think about perennial.
What is the 5th P?
The 5th P is being a perennial. So
Perennial.
Perennial, P-E-R-E-N-N-I-A-L.
Permanent.
So
Yes.
someone who is alive till the end of the life.
Thank you. That's really
That is
good.
what I think about it.
I'm trying to keep my spirit high till the last moment. I joined at the beginning, 4 o'clock. Yes, Dr. Arvind Kumar Jain. Your formula, please.
We our university taken an initiative to start Institute Industry Interaction Cell, and through this we are going to ourselves to the industries, understanding their problems, taking their expert to our classroom, and as academia we going to them. And I've seen a big boost in this last 15 days. Several industries come up together, and we have signed many MOUs with them for working togetherness.
Great.
So as an academia, when you go to the industry, you see new initiatives from their side, because whatever we study in the books is not happening in the industry.
Great.
So we are taking their inputs into the classrooms and with their expert also. And this kind of initiative will change the academic institute interaction very well.
Very good. Thank you. What Dr. Swati said was 360-degree assessment, academic, non-academic, and various other aspects through 5P. And what Dr. Arvind Jain said is institute industry interface, stronger, closer, I-cube, if I can say, institute industry interface. Over to you, Dr. Rudresh Pandeyji.
Thank you, sir. I think a very, very informative discussion we had, and a lot of inputs. I think, Dr. Swati, I'll definitely adopt the 360 development in my institute and would like to do the same with my students. And it's a good suggestion. See, the one thing which I have to bring here is the entire knowledge business in which we are in has gone a tremendous change during the past few years. And this is not a India specific or in Delhi or Bombay. This is a global phenomenon. The volume of, first of all, what has been changed is volume of business has increased drastically. There's a lot more happening in higher education than what was happening around 30 years or 40 years back. And within the university system, if you are part, for example, we are part of this university system, and there is a considerable expansion in research infrastructure, number of people involved in it, the research coverage, new areas which have been brought under this purview of research, that shows how higher education is changing. As far as what we are doing is, being a smaller institute, we are focusing on skill development, skills which give our students job readiness in their immediate future, in their coming 2 years down line, and their first job or the second job. And this is where we have focused. Every class which we do focuses on some or the other skill which develops them and make them ready. So we have designed the curriculum, we have designed the classes so that the time 1.5 hours which we take in our class, there is some kind of skill development which is happening, and those skills can be very simple skills, and we develop, we focus on those skills. So this is what I have to say to conclude, that we have to be ready for this change. And I think thanks everyone, thank you for the panelists, and it was really an honor to be a part of this panel. Thank you, sir.
In conclusion, let me check. Dr. Srinivasan, are you there? Are you in a position to speak? I doubt he can. There was some meeting that he had at this point of time. No issues. It was a very fabulous, as someone has written, Pankaj Shah has written that it was an excellent discussion and would like to have the video recording. Undoubtedly, both the sessions were very rich in content, and I thank my panelists for making an extraordinary effort in spite of 5 people speaking, finishing in time. And if I can calculate myself, 6 people speaking, still we managed to do it in 1 hour. And as we conclude, skill set, hard skills, soft skills, but very important, life skills. If the skill sets can combine the 3, understanding of the past, preparing, ready with the present, but preparing for the future, if we can complete these aspects and all the things that have been already presented here, perhaps tomorrow is not such a bad day to come. Over to you, Tanujit Brahma, to bring this session to an end.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists. Thank you so much for gracing the event. Before we move on down to the closing session, I'd like to invite Mr. Ajay Bhagwat, Director for Inpods, once again to have a small presentation about how Inpods accreditation management system has been creating a lot of good work for the universities and higher education across. Sir, I'd like to invite you on the screen, please.
Thank you once again. So I'm going to share my screen actually and introduce you to the company first, and then I'll show you a small video that will introduce everyone to Inpods accreditation management system. So Inpods actually is an American company founded by 2 ex-Microsoft senior executives, Sanjay and Vivek. Sanjay has been a serial entrepreneur, and his real companies serving IT services business to overseas customers have been merged into Mindtree sometime late 2000, and then this journey of Inpods started around 11 years ago. Dr. Vivek Nirkhe is an IIT Bombay computer science graduate and PhD in computer science from Maryland University. He's the CTO of the company. He has been product specialist. He architected many applications, for Microsoft in the past, and he has obviously our mentor for our engineering team. My colleague Kalidas and I, we live in, Kalidas lives in Bengaluru. I live in Pune. We manage the business in India. Our engineering center is in Pune and Hyderabad. In other cities, we have our offices of partners who manage the regional sales over there. So one of the uniqueness that Inpods has is a focus on core academics and quality reform processes. So essentially, we are passionate about outcomes of teaching learning, outcomes of accreditations, outcomes of quality reforms in examination area, assessment and evaluation. And that has actually given us a thrust to continuously build solutions over a period of last 11 years that are serving many prestigious universities and institutions across India. And they trust on us, in us for our technologies, for online and blended teaching learning evaluations, outcomes-based education, competency-based medical education. In fact, we have a special recognition in the field of health sciences, and our technologies are used for implementing the reforms in the medical education, which is called as competency-based medical education and competency-based assessments. So these technologies are customized for also serving the health sciences education. And sometime, around 3 years ago, we started developing our NAC accreditation management system, which has now become instant hit, and many institutions are using this technology platform for their NAC accreditation, AQAR and SSR submission. So this is a quick look at some of the prestigious customers we are serving. They are primarily into health sciences education, liberal arts, engineering management, and also in academics programs. They, as you can see, there are quite a few state-level universities also are using this technologies. So this is the technology for implementing the reforms in outcomes of the students, and essentially this is highly oriented towards implementing OB in regards to I mean, if we talk about the compliances with various accreditations and rankings, it's primarily it serves the purpose of NBA, ABET, and NAC as well. But it takes the platform beyond just implementing the OB, because the kind of work that the teachers are expected to do in identifying the weaker students, planning the remedial actions, and driving the continuous improvement, that's possible using this technology. So it actually handles a huge amount of data. It churns it, gives you the analysis at the course level, student level, and the progression of the students also can be tracked easily by creating a student's profile that shows you their strength and the weaknesses in regards with reference to the course level outcomes as well as program level outcomes. So this is the technology that is preferred by many private universities as well. This is the platform for competency-based medical education. This is customized highly for CBME, as I mentioned, but it actually gives you the analysis such as discriminatory index that you can compute and or kind of realign your examination questions according to this analysis given to you. In addition to that, it uses DREFUS model also to give you a kind of spread of the students from novice to competent, and that helps the teachers to actually plan the remedial actions and continuous improvement in their courses. This mobile app that you can see here is designed for teachers to certify the 56 skills that the MBBS students have to exhibit. So this app helps the teacher to observe the students' performance and note down with the help of the checklist available there. And then there is a rubric also to kind of assess if the students are able to perform those steps, desired steps in sequence accurately. And then based on the rubric, they can get the performance and certify whether the student is certified or not for those 56 skills. And this is the technology that is a very good companion for reforms in assessments, essentially. So it helps you create question banks which for every course, in which you can have questions, subjective or objective questions, which can be mapped to course outcomes or cognitive levels, competency levels, topics and areas or units. And these mappings of 7-8 parameters to each question can then help you and design a question paper with a pattern which is predefined pattern, and the examiner has to think about what should be the spread of certain course outcomes or competencies or topics or units that must be seen in the question paper. So it's not about making the examination difficult, but it is to make the examinations more elaborate and touching all the points of the syllabus of the course, essentially. And so the spread is ensured. And this brings in the consistency in the way the examinations are created across the universities, all the schools and departments and the courses. So there is a predicted outcome that you can envisage, and that helps you actually see whether the that you need to put in place are really going in the right direction or not. So this is again a very strong input that comes to the Board of Studies or those who are involved into examination reforms. This also, by the way, is a technology that is compliant with AICTE's examination policy. So that's also one of the ways of looking at this technology. And then late in, as I mentioned, sometime 3 years ago, we designed this accreditation management system, which also can be evaluated independently by the accuracy offices of the institutions. This is a portal that we have developed for them to register here and then create an instance dedicatedly for their university. You will find the name of your university, since Aisha registration has been done by most of the institutions in India. You'll find your name, and then a 14-day free trial gets created. The registrant will get a couple of emails which will have elaborate user manuals to follow step by step. And also some videos are there to kind of look at and learn the product themselves. So this helps you kind of quickly evaluate how technology can help you not only collect the data very systematically, but how it can help you improve the quality of the data, because they will also find quite a few suggestions given by us with the help of our experts. We have drafted those best practices or SOPs that they can follow, and they will find those available there near the metrics of the NAC manual. And obviously the chatbot is there for them to quickly reach out to our team. So that's a very quick, brief introduction to Inpods. But if, I would like to run this 2-minute video, which will give you an
Hello, and welcome to this video on Inpods Accreditation Management System. We understand that you, as an academic leader, appreciate the value of higher grades and rankings of your institution to increase enrollments and improve placements. Inpods, being a pioneer in developing a learning platform for better outcomes, will help you achieve this goal in a predictable and efficient manner. Let's start by understanding the common hurdles you face while pursuing accreditation and rankings. Frequently changing specifications, tracking multiple tasks across departments, tracking progress on data points from various sources, reviewing data to predict your institute's grade. You are often required to delegate the tasks to multiple faculty members across departments. Your already overburdened faculty members are forced to collect and report the same information in ever-changing formats and for different regulatory agencies. You also need to make sense of thousands of data points across multiple versions of documents at various stages of review and approval, and thus you may face challenges getting a pulse on the progress made. Lastly, you are responsible for facilitating structured internal review of this data. Without a centralized repository of all the associated data, this can be a challenging task. Inpods is a leading edtech company engaged with top institutes and universities, and the Inpods Accreditation Management System is the answer to all your worries. With Inpods Accreditation Management System, you can empower your team to curate, organize, analyze, reflect on, and publish data in the correct formats. Additionally, Inpods advisory services make it easy to seek the expertise of advisors to assess your grade and rankings. Click the link here to learn more about Inpods Accreditation Management System.
So thanks a lot for watching and listening to me for this presentation. My colleague Kalidas is also here. I would like to invite him also for sharing his thoughts with you. Kalidas, are you there? But if you have any questions, please feel free to post those here or directly ask.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ajay sir. It was indeed an exciting platform for all of us, dealing with higher education as such. Yes, so this brings us to the closing session of the day. It has been indeed a very enthralling session with the two panel discussions focusing completely on how to tap ahead the opportunities lying in the Indian education system in the coming years. And I like to take this opportunity to thank the eminent panelists, right, for gracing the event, for the August presence. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the sponsors, right, Inpods and EduVacancy for supporting the event, and definitely our audience, without whose presence this event would not have been possible. Thanks for all your engagement, all your questions, and thanks for staying with us for the past 3.5 hours. The first panel discussion was more about the quality assurance leading to the NEP 2020 and what we successfully evaluated. The fact is that it's high time that we focus from education to the strength of the syllabus to education to the strength of the child. It's very important for us to focus on that particular factor, because assessment is all about learning, not about just evaluating and putting out across grades. Then there's no real learning. Then there's no fun in learning, actually. And second point, and the second panel discussion is more about the human capital, which we successfully conclude about the fact it's very important to stay invested with the human capital. It's very important to create a conducive environment so that the human capital can grow, learn, and definitely that will lead to a loyalty for the human capital for all the education institutions, right? After all, what is the use of having successful yet unhappy people around, right? It is not a very conducive environment to be around such people, right? So yes, so this brings us to the end of the first event of ASMA 2022. The first one, but definitely not the last one. We have been providing many content-based event since the pandemic hit us more on the virtual ground, and definitely we're going to be back very soon. So we request to stay tuned, and we'll be announcing some exciting events very much very soon as such. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your presence, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you, everyone.